Bye for the lead. Hi, Jake.
Hey, Case. We'll look for more tomorrow in the arena.
Have a wonderful show. See you soon.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Welcome to the lead. I'm Jake Tapper. We're going to start with breaking news in our world lead. Hours after delivering a speech at Davos that was received as warmly as the frigid Swiss air, President Trump now claims he's one step closer to his goal of the U.S. acquiring the Arctic island of Greenland, which belongs to Denmark. Trump wrote on Truth Social today, quote, based upon a very productive meeting that I have had with the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, we have formed the framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland and, in fact, the entire Arctic region. This solution, if consummated, will be a great one for the United States of America and all NATO nations. Based upon this understanding, I will not be imposing the tariffs that were scheduled to go into effect on February 1st, unquote. Just minutes ago, the president was asked about this and pressed by CNN Caitlin Collins on whether this framework of a deal includes the U.S. ownership that President Trump has insisted must happen.
Does it still include the United States having ownership of Greenland like you've said you wanted?
It's a long-term deal. It's the ultimate long-term deal. And I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and everything else.
How long would the deal be, Mr. President?
Infinite.
Will there speak to Denmark? Did you speak to Denmark?
There is no time limit. It's forever.
Forever and ever. So the answer there would actually seem to be a no, that the president's demand that the United States will acquire Greenland, it doesn't sound like that's part of this deal. This all followed Trump's speech this morning, where for the very first time he said he would not use military force to annex Greenland.
We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest statement I made, because people thought I would use force.
Trump was referring to the correct plot of land here, Greenland, unlike other times in his speech in Davos when he referred to Greenland as Iceland. Before I play the actual video of the president saying this, I want you to see what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said when a correspondent for a different network, Libby Dean, pointed out on social media the mix-up. The White House press secretary wrote on X, quote, no, he didn't, Libby. His written remarks referred to Greenland as a piece of ice because that's what it is. You're the only one mixing anything up here, unquote. So keep in mind what the White House is saying about whether or not the president confused Greenland and Iceland. Here's the reality of what happened.
I'm helping NATO, and I've until the last few days when I told them about Iceland, they loved me. They called me daddy, right, last time. A very smart man said, he's our daddy. They're not there for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. I mean, our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland. So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money.
Quote, the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command, unquote. That's George Orwell in 1984. In other words, Trump clearly said Iceland. It's not that big a deal. Why lie about it? Here's a map. It shows Iceland is not, in fact, Greenland. Iceland is an independent nation to the east of Greenland. More importantly, let's talk about Trump ruling out this hostile takeover of Greenland. It comes as welcome news to Denmark and European allies who have been alarmed, to say the least. The Danish foreign minister saying this news is positive. So what is actually in this so-called framework of a deal that the president is claiming is happening? Is it real, or is it just an off-ramp for the president as he faces not just opposition to this Greenland thing from European allies, but a public even more opposed to how President Trump is handling the issue of Greenland than how he has handled the Epstein files, which honestly is quite an accomplishment. Trump's other remarks in Davos are causing European allies to cringe. In his speech, Trump still insulted Denmark.
After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that? But we did it. But we gave it back. But how ungrateful are they now?
So fact, first of all, a lot of soldiers from Denmark were killed fighting for the United States after 9/11, so I don't know that calling them ungrateful is correct. Another fact, after Germany invaded Denmark in World War II, the U.S. assumed responsibility for Greenland's defense and established a military presence on the island, but the United States never possessed Greenland. The president also questioned NATO and the future of NATO.
We give so much and we get so little in return. And I've been a critic of NATO for many years. And yet I've done more to help NATO than any other president by far. The problem with NATO is that we'll be there for them 100%. But I'm not sure that they'd be there for us.
So, again, fact, the only time in history that NATO's Article 5, which is an attack on one, is an attack on all. The only time Article 5 has been invoked was NATO being there for the United States after 9/11. The president then turned to wind farms and windmills, insulting European countries that use them.
China makes almost all of the windmills. And yet I haven't been able to find any wind farms in China. But they make them, they sell them for a fortune. They sell them to the stupid people that buy them. But they don't use them themselves.
China, in point of fact, has more wind farms than any other country. I think an estimated 20% of their energy comes from wind. But the big picture, according to three sources, is that many top European officials worry that NATO's very survival remains at stake. They feel an urgent diplomatic intervention is needed for the president. I guess a question we all have right now is whether this claim that this issue is about to be resolved, is that real? Is that Trump waving a white flag? Sources tell the New York Times that during a NATO meeting today, top military officers from NATO member states discussed this so-called compromise in which Denmark would give the U.S. sovereignty over small pockets of Greenland where the U.S. could build military bases. The officials did not know if this idea was part of the framework announced by